It's a very odd feeling going from, a couple of years earlier, literally not getting guacamole at Chipotle to watching the money just absolutely pile up in your checking account.
In just 5 years, Nick Huber has built an empire that has changed his entire life. But he's well aware that the next step is not letting it crumble.
Like I said, I've only been making money for a little bit of time. And I think the most irresponsible thing I could do is put what I've built at risk.
What got him there was confidence, something he's well known for online. Seriously, if you don't follow him on Twitter, go and check out his most popular tweets. It's a goldmine and extremely entertaining. But what's going to keep him there is humility and this incredible intentionality he has around avoiding lifestyle creep. I'm Harry Morton, and this is Moneywise. And in this episode, Nick Huber is going to tell us the gritty details of how his life changed on the way to an 8-figure net worth, exactly how he's spending his money, and how he squares calling himself frugal while also owning a private jet. And really quick, as you know, this podcast is made for the Hampton community. We'll talk more about that later, but definitely go and check it out at joinhampton.com. Time to get specific. I just said Nick's net worth is 8 figures. That can mean a lot. And it kind of does. What's your net worth today?
No, I have no idea.
Okay. Guess.
because I own 7 storage facilities outright with my partner, with no investors.
Yep.
What they're worth is a moving target, and I don't really plan to sell them.
Yep.
I own another 59 pieces of real estate with investors where my promote is different levels in different deals. Mm-hmm. I own a certain percentage of the cash on hand at my business. I own a certain amount of a company that 1 month will do 800 grand of revenue, and the next month we'll do 600 grand a month of revenue because of seasonality. So,
sure,
my net worth, if we're in a bull market and real estate is trading at what it was in 2021, and my companies are operating as they did last month for a whole year, and they have, that study is probably 50 million. And with the real estate market is where it is today, it's 25 or 30 million because it's just not a good time to sell real estate. But generally speaking, I literally have no idea what my net worth is.
That's a baller move, man. You sound like Felix Dennis or something. Okay, so now tell me how's that broken down? So obviously you just outlined a bunch of it, but so a ton of it's locked up in assets. So walk me through that, and then I'd love to just walk through the stuff that you do have liquid-ish. I'd love to know where that is as well.
Yeah, so a couple million liquid. I don't have any stocks at the moment. I have literally treasuries and interest-earning accounts with a couple $1 million cash. That's my emergency fund to operate my companies with and my life. Yep. Mm-hmm. I have 45% equity in RE Cost Seg that I wouldn't sell any equity under a $20 million valuation in that business. And then I own 12.75% of somewhere.com that I bought a big chunk from Marshall for $52 million a year ago. So those are the three. And then there's all the storage that, we bought $100 million worth of storage. Maybe it's worth 130 now, maybe 150 on a good day. And I own a good chunk of that upside from there.
Yeah, okay, amazing. And this is all cash flowing stuff, right? What's your typical kind of monthly cash flow?
Yeah, I'll make anywhere from 150K to 500K a month. Average 250, let's say.
And does that lumpiness make it difficult to plan, or you don't care at this point?
As long as I have enough cash and I feel really good about where I am, it's a group text with the other owners and partners in my business about how much do you guys want to distribute this month because we're hiring and we want to do this over here and we're thinking about that over there. Or in RE Cost Seg, we're heading into the slow season. We just crushed it for 6 months heading into tax season, but the next 4 months of business will break even, right? So we're not going to pull cash from there at that time. I have a book deal that I signed with HarperCollins for $550K. It comes in increments where a couple times a year, you're going to get a $150K check as you hit different checkpoints inside the business. So yeah, it's super lumpy.
And that seems kind of wild to have a couple million just sitting in cash.
I think anybody who has big operating companies with 200 grand a month of overhead and 400 grand a month of overhead and 800 grand a month of overhead, you have to keep liquidity on hand. I mean, do you keep it in an actual checking account? No, you keep it in treasuries and you rotate them or interest-bearing accounts or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, look, we manage 800 grand a month of expenses in our self-storage portfolio. If we need to replace a roof, we need to repave a driveway, we need to do things we need to do, cash, you have to have cash on hand to run companies responsibly.
Do you feel nervous at all? Have you got any kind of nerves sitting there going oh shit, what if all this tariff news has hit a bunch of people pretty fucking hard, right? So
it hit somewhere. So it hit somewhere. It hit somewhere hard. we were on pace for a $1.5 million month, and we were going to celebrate 20% year over year growth. And then 40 of our clients at the finish line said, hey, like, we have to pause hiring because we don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. Now, do we have a really good pipeline behind it and the business fundamentals are really good? Yes. Are we worried? No. But it's lumpy. It's super lumpy. So yeah, that's why you have to keep cash on hand if you're an entrepreneur.
Context time. Nick's approach to cash flow isn't something he's recently learned. Getting attached to money is actually the reason he is where he is today. And that story takes us to a small town in Indiana.
I grew up in southern Indiana, small town called Tell City. My entrepreneurial journey began there, mowing lawns. And then I went off to Ithaca, New York for college.
What was money like as a kid?
My parents had enough for sure. I grew up in a nice house, 4-bedroom place. I don't know, it was worth a couple $100,000 back then, very rural southern Indiana. So money goes a long way. My parents didn't own assets. They didn't own rental properties or any equity in any companies. But my dad did well, earned a couple $100,000 a year as a VP of development. And we never went without, that's for sure.
Yeah, okay. But your dad had a strong work ethic, I'm guessing? Like, how did he get you into work?
My dad had a strong work ethic and just this unwavering energy and irrational confidence that I have, that things are going to be easy. And my mom was the kind of super extreme frugality. She comes from a family that, just depression era frugality. So, we were very aware of saving money growing up. That was kind of programmed into me.
Yeah, okay. What did you take away from that then as a kid, and what do you still take away now, do you think?
I mean, it saved me when I was building my company because we were just extremely frugal. I'm talking no wasted money, very, very careful about what I buy, drink the cheapest beer, was just programmed into me. So I still, it's not to that extreme, but it never leaves a person, I don't think.
Yeah. Did you ever feel stress around money as a kid?
My parents,
because we're going to talk about how maybe that did creep in as you've kind of grown things. So I'm keen to know, like, if that was always the case or whether that's something that's kind of happened through earning more.
Yeah, I don't think there was ever stress about money in our family. My parents may have felt it, definitely felt it at times, but they never, it never crept into the family. And I always had cash, oddly, because I started mowing grass at 13.
Right.
So I went to college with $40K in my checking account. And
wow.
I just always had money, always. Never, ever spent it. Never spent it, but I always had it.
That's what I needed more of when I was a kid. So like, I was the same. I was working from, I don't know, like I was knocking on like neighbors' doors asking if I could wash their car at like 9. But I sure as shit didn't go to school with 40 grand in my pocket. Like it was like, it came in and it went straight back out. So like, yeah, that's different.
I was jealous of the kids who had the Abercrombie and Hollister stuff because I had the Aeropostale stuff in high school.
Right. So how did you get into startups?
That lawn care business changed my life. I mean, I was 13. That first day on the job, I wanted to quit because my dad signed me up with his boss to mow a couple commercial properties in Tell City, Indiana, and put his 13-year-old on a zero-turn radius mower on Main Street in Tell City. And I had a hell of a bad day because it was 98 degrees out. There was trash everywhere, and it was a lot of freaking work. I was 13, so I cried and asked my dad to quit the job. I was like, hey, look, like this is ridiculous. Why am I here? I quit. And he said, okay, put his arm around me, put a wet towel around my neck and said, Nick, you can quit, but not until you get paid the first time. And I went home and sent a $280 invoice for one day's work as a, 13-year-old. And, I was out there for 10 or 12 hours. And I did some basic math of how much cash I made even after I paid for fuel and wear and tear on my mower. And my friends were making $6 an hour at Subway. And I was making, $20 an hour on a lawnmower. And I was hooked. I was totally hooked to making money from then on. And I've actually never, ever gotten a W-2, ever.
That sun-blazing day on a mower set off his lifelong love of hustling and saving. And roughly a decade later, a similar pivotal moment came.
2011 is when I started Storage Squad. I was a junior in college.
Okay. And as I understand it, the kind of like revenue journey had its peaks and valleys, but it's been kind of a long, slow one. So like how much money did you have 5 years ago?
So I'd say 5 years in, 2016, me and my partner had $500K in the bank from running our sweaty startup. And that's when we put every bit of it into that first self-storage development. So then we were broke again, totally broke, had no money, still living extremely frugally. I got married for $25K, like that was kind of how I started my relationship with my wife, renting a shitty 1-bedroom apartment in Medford, Massachusetts. And then 5 years later, 2020, I would say I was making 30 grand a month or so.
Can you give me like a little financial timeline over the last 5 years then, of where what this sort of meteoric?
Yeah. So back in 2019, early 2019, we refinanced that building that we bought and built. And I got 7 figures wired to my checking account tax free because it was a loan. That was life. That would set us on a totally new trajectory, early 2019.
Yep.
I invested almost I didn't buy a bigger house. I didn't buy a new truck. I didn't buy anything personally. I put all that money into buying 4 more storage facilities between me and my partner that we own wholly without investors.
Yeah.
Those deals have been phenomenal for my net worth. I've turned that $1 million into 6 or 7.
So before we get into like, because again, I want to chart the trajectory because I think it's really fascinating, but like, do you not have your mum in your ear? Like, Nick, what the fuck are you doing? Like, put this money in whatever, like the markets, anything, just like somewhere secure, lock it in, what gave you the sort of gumption to go, no, I'm rolling this all over?
We were finding really good deals, and I was compelled as an investor and as an entrepreneur to seize the opportunity. So my mom had never heard of that much money getting wired into an account. I didn't even really tell her that it happened. I told my dad, and he said, holy cow, is this possible? Like, what are you really doing, Nick? There was a little bit of that, but mostly it was, okay, hey, we got this cash. We're still making a little bit of money from our storage business. Let's go buy some buildings now because we know what we can do with this money if we continue to operate these buildings well and do this. So to chart it, 2011, broke, college student, but I had always 10 or 20 grand in my checking account because I was an entrepreneur. I was a hustler. 3 years into business, 2015, I was making 100 grand a year maybe. The next 2 years were really good. 14, 15 were good years. Me and my partner after tax had about $500,000 set aside, so $250K each that we had saved up. We put it all on red and built a self-storage facility with some outside investors. 2 years after that, and our business was staying around the same size, making 200 grand a year, 250 grand a year of profit, 2 million of revenue, by the way. So our storage squad was operating at 10 or 15% margins is all, with that risk and that headache and that physical toll that it was taking on us. 2019, we opened the building in 2017. By 2019, it was rocking and rolling and producing a lot of net operating income. That's when we did the refinance, and I made $1 million in my checking account in 2019. So did my partner together. Our monthly income is still only 10 grand a month or 15 grand a month or something like that. We're making enough to pay the bills. I had 2 children at this time. And then, 2020, I started doing some work online. 2021, I was doing some affiliate revenue with Shepherd, but still not making any more than, let's say, 20 grand a month. So then 2022, we found RE Cost Seg, and I buy into somewhere.com. I buy equity. And 2022, then my income started becoming, let's say, 80 grand a month, 70 grand a month. 2023 is when these businesses really exploded. And I started making 150, 200 grand a month. And it's been lumpy ever since, around average, maybe 300 grand a month average since then.
Wow. That's insane. Have there been any exits along the way then?
No, so I guess the other side of this is to talk about kind of the equity and what it's worth and kind of how I'm building, because the cash, I've never sold anything. Never sold a business, and I've never sold a piece of real estate.
Again, you've just charted the past, 15 years, I guess now, for us. Like that, it's kind of like just like chugging along, doing its thing, and then it's literally 2021 or whatever that it really starts taking off. Like, so you're still in the first 4 years of being a rich guy, basically, right?
That's the very important part of this whole story.
Yeah. So what has that felt like? How has that been for you? How's that been for your wife? How's that been for your kids?
It's a very odd feeling going from, a couple of years earlier, literally not getting guacamole at Chipotle to watching the money just absolutely pile up in your checking account. Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird feeling.
That's crazy. But all of that almost never happened.
2014 or 15 on the streets of Boston in that sweaty startup, in that company storage squad. And what we did was pick up and delivery storage for students. So when the students went home, we picked up their stuff. We were driving box trucks around. We rented a warehouse. It was a logistical nightmare business. We did 7,000 students at our peak in 12 states
Wow.
at 25 major colleges.
Jeez.
So we had 200 plus part-time employees driving trucks around these major cities.
Is that all happening in 1 week as well, by the way? So
Yes, and it's all during finals week.
If shit hits the fan in Ithaca and you're in Texas or whatever, like you're screwed, right? Okay.
Exactly right. So it was a total nightmare of a business, and we went into a super growth season in Boston. I painted the town with sidewalk chalk, and we got 3,000 customers in Boston. I had a little like 7,000 square foot warehouse. I had to rent 20,000 extra feet to put them in. I had to hire a bunch of extra employees, and I worked myself to the bone basically. And during deliveries, it was a total nightmare on September 4th in Boston. And yeah, man, like one of my employees put gasoline in a diesel engine, totaled one of my trucks. One of my employees ripped the top off of a truck on Sturrow Drive in Boston, and one of my employees sideswiped a BMW. And that all happened in a matter of 3 days. And 2 of them happened within 2 hours. And I had a mental breakdown on the side of the road in Boston because I thought my business was going to be done. Like it was going to be gone.
Yeah.
Like literally the phone ringing nonstop because I'm the one answering customer service calls. I didn't know how to delegate. I didn't know how to run a company.
Yeah.
And curled up in a little ball.
And how levered were you in that? Like if that had gone down, like how screwed would you have been, do you think?
Oh, I was spending money like crazy. I mean, each of those accidents cost me $5,000 out of pocket. We had a ton of customers that were getting upset asking for refunds. I wouldn't say we had leverage, but our entire, our business reputation was on the line for sure. And we were getting bad reviews, like added to Google daily. So it was a very scary moment where I thought I was going to having wasted the last 4 years of building this business to watch it all crumble.
Do you think it's avoidable? So if you went back to you're in a ball on the side of the street in Boston, knowing everything you know now, like presumably you wouldn't start a student storage business.
No, if I know everything I know now, I wouldn't change a single thing because if I would have been 25 and somebody would have said, Nick, when you're 35, you're going to have the life that you have now with the assets that you have now with the companies that you have now, I would have said, holy cow, sign me up for that when I'm 70.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I'm not arguing that 1 second. But if I gave you the mission just as like a thought experiment to be like, okay, Nick, now go back to being 18, and you want to get here without having to sit on the side of the street in a ball. I guess what I'm trying to get to is that do you fundamentally believe that just like pain is necessary?
I do. Yeah, you can read about things, you can listen to podcasts, you can study, you can make really good decisions, and shit is still going to hit the fan. There's no way around it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to a friend the other day because you were saying I got this, got this idea. I was like, oh, I really want to do this thing. This is definitely an opportunity. He's like, yeah, cool, man. But it doesn't matter how sexy that sounds today. There will be a point in 6 months, 2 years, 3 years where it will be a shit thing to run, just like everything else is. And you've just kind of got to get to that point. Doesn't matter how sexy it is today. It's just that
this leads me.
I mean,
this is exactly why I approach wealth a lot differently than a lot of people, and I try to keep my overhead extremely low, which we're going to talk about on this pod. But that fear and those trials, entrepreneurship is super lumpy, especially operating companies. I'll make $150,000 1 month. I'll make $500K the month after that. And then I'll take 0 distributions the month after that because of seasonality or because we're making an investment. We decided to buy something. And the only way to lose this game is to run out of cash.
So not running out of cash is the objective. Nick's been operating on that principle since he started running businesses. But now, as a relatively high net worth individual, that same principle and frugality have extended into his personal life. Despite being worth between 20 and 50 million, his life hasn't changed much. Well, except for a private jet.
I've purposely kept my overhead low. I still live in the house I bought in 2017. I paid $289,000 for this house. We're starting to grow out of it and maybe start to think about just a larger house, but still very modest. I don't have a new vehicle with a big car payment. I don't have a second vehicle. I don't have a boat. I don't have a beach house. Mm-hmm. I have purposely avoided the big expenses. I think the things that it has changed is we have a nanny, which has been a massive benefit to our family. We have a house cleaner. It's also been a massive benefit. Healthcare is the one thing that has really changed. So I spend $3,000 a month on health insurance for my family.
Yeah.
But I've probably spent $100,000 on concierge health for me, my wife, my mom, my dad, my wife's mom, my wife's dad. and I'm going to keep spending that money on additional family members because preventative health and things like that are just not a focus in the United States or anywhere in the world. So if you're serious about that, there's a lot of options and things you can do. So yeah, my family has some health issues. We're working through that. And that's where money has been an unbelievable asset, to where your mom calls you and says, hey, somebody in the family needs this medicine and it's $8,000. You say like, okay, I'm not going to commit long-term to doing this, but let's take care of it right now.
So what's your monthly burn as a family?
Yeah, I wrote it down here. I spend $2,300 a month on my house. I spend another $2,000 a month on daycare, sports, camps for my kids. Nanny makes $57K a year, so that's almost $5,000 a month. Health insurance I don't use is $3,000 a month. Private healthcare I spend at least $2,000 a month, more like $4,000 probably. My jet overhead that I'm committed to every single month is only about $3,000 because I paid cash for it. It's a portion of it, and I share expenses with 3 other partners. And then there's some variable, food miscellaneous that is about $5,000 a month to live on. So yeah, I'm all in about 25 to $25K a month of spend.
Yeah, wow, that seems remarkably low for a man that owns a jet. So that's
now last year, if you would add $12,000 a month for the times I used the jet, you would add $4,000, a month, evened out over the year for my trip to Colorado in the summer, where I spent a lot of money to live in Crested Butte for a month. I have other variable things that pop up, like I'll buy a new vehicle, I'll buy this or that, but those are expenses that I can control. The $25K a month is what I'm on the hook for moving forward.
Yeah. And do you feel like do you feel like you're short of anything? Do you feel like you're holding back on anything?
Oh yeah, definitely holding back.
Okay.
It'd be nice to go buy a $5 million house with a outbuilding to play basketball in the Georgia summers, but like I said, I've only been making money for a little bit of time, and I think the most irresponsible thing I could do is put what I've built at risk.
Why are you afraid of lifestyle creep?
I wouldn't say I'm afraid of it. I'm just conscious of it. Because I see people and I've listened to folks on your show that have massive monthly overhead nuts. And that would get stressful if you run a business that you could make $250K one month, which is, by the way, is only $125K after taxes. That you're going to make $125K and you're going to spend 80 or 100 to live. What if you have a couple goose eggs or you need to make a big investment?
The big fear I have is like 1 month, like my wife gets a personal trainer. I'm like, oh fuck, I want a personal trainer. I'm gonna get one too. So I get a personal trainer, and now we're both on the hook for like personal trainers every week, which is amazing. I really don't want to scale back from that because this is a good thing, right? And so, but I'm just every time I make a purchase decision or an increase in lifestyle, I get this like pang of like, firstly guilt, and then second of just slight mild panic because I'm like, is this the decision that's gonna be the one that fucks me in like a year or two's time when like we have a few bad months and like should I just be holding on to this extra couple quid over here that's Absolutely. I think when that goes away is when things start to get a little dangerous. Right. And then to put a cherry on it, I get it, but how do you justify owning a jet as a man that says he doesn't allow lifestyle creep?
Yeah, I'm an hour and 45 minutes in traffic from the Atlanta airport. And then it's an hour to get through security and get to my gate in the largest airport in the world. And I have business in rural towns all over America with my storage facility. My family's in a rural town in southern Indiana. My wife's family's in a rural town in upstate New York. Traveling, especially with kids, from where I live in Athens is very difficult. I did the math of, hey, I can buy 1/4 share of a jet that can fly my family around and look, I say jet, it's a Vision jet. It's smaller than most turboprops. It's more affordable than most turboprops. It barely holds my family. As my kids grow, it will not fit them. It's a small airplane, right? This is not a private jet that you imagine Taylor Swift or Kim Kardashian coming around. I bought a 1/4 share of this airplane for $900,000.
If you're sharing it with 4 people and you I drop everything I need to go to Portland for some reason tomorrow, but someone else may be flying somewhere. So how does that kind of timeshare?
Yeah, you text so there's also 3 PC-12s and a TBM and another Vision jet that works with my management company. And we all share hours, so it's very, very convenient to get where you need to go, even last minute. I could text my pilot right now, or the owner of the management company, and he'd get me on a plane this evening if there was an emergency.
Okay, got it. Awesome. That's pretty rad.
And it's only $1,000 an hour to fly the airplane. So I can get round trip to Indiana, to Bristol, Virginia, where one of my properties is, and I'm going to get a $3,000 or $4,000 bill.
Did it feel super baller when you first got it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. That makes sense.
But I didn't. It's funny because it's also a little bit of like, hey, I don't want people to know I have this. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want my friends to know I have it. I don't want my kids to go to school and say that they have it. So
yeah, don't worry. No one's listening to this podcast. You'll be fine. Okay, why do you avoid fixed costs?
It's the monthly burn that you're on the hook for that can get you in trouble. I only pay for my plane when I fly it. I only pay for a summer vacation if I book it. I only pay for a beach house if I go rent it. But if I need to buckle down, if things get slow, or if I make a big investment, I can cut my expenses drastically. Even things like a nanny and some of this private healthcare, I could cut as well, and I could get my burn to $15K a month if I needed to, or 10 grand a month. That's a good feeling to have in your back pocket as an entrepreneur, that you can cut your expenses down lower than an average middle class family in America at this point.
By the way, do you think this the care that you take to not kind of let your lifestyle creep and make sure that you've got cash in the bank in case something happens to the business, like it makes total sense. I think that's perfectly rational. Do you think that anxiety keeps you grounded though as a person? Because again, like you've come into a lot of money in a short space of time, you fly around in a jet. It'd be pretty easy to kind of, I don't know, be a douche about it. Like how do you think about that?
I just try to operate with humility. Am I a different person than I was 5 years ago? Definitely. Like I'm just dealing with more stress. I have more balls in the air. I have more going on. I have less time for a lot of the things I used to do. So I do have to say no to a lot of things, but at the same time, I really try to take genuine interest in other people. I am genuinely interested in other people, even if they're operating at a totally different level than me. So I can go to a neighborhood cookout and nobody there knows that I have an airplane, and I'm generally speaking about, talking to other people about themselves the entire time I'm there. So yeah, I think staying humble and having the humility hasn't been that difficult for me, because I don't feel like I'm a different person than I was a few years ago.
How do you keep that ego in check? Because I can't lie, like I am the same, I think, as what you're suggesting. Like I actually get self-conscious. It's funny. It's only since I've started working on this podcast as a host that like anyone in my life associates me with money at all, because this is just so out and out like about money. And suddenly I find myself really squeamish with that idea. I'm like, oh, I don't want like my mate Simon to think that like I care about all this money shit. Like I'm the same guy. Like don't think about me differently. But there is still a part of me that wants to like know that I'm doing okay, that I'm doing well. Like there's the kind of a bit of me that wants the nice car, so that it's just like a soft, well, not that soft of a signal of like, Harry's doing well. Do you know what I mean? Like that the ego is still there. Like it sounds like you don't have that much ego maybe. I don't know. Like you tell me, like how do you keep it in check?
No, I have a massive amount of ego. It's what drives me to entrepreneurship.
Right.
I have that. I just have this almost irrational level of confidence that my father instilled in me from the beginning of sports and all this stuff, that I think I can do anything, and I think I'm very good at what I do, and I operate with confidence. And now that I have 15 years of track record, I trust my decisions more. It's not that I don't listen to the smart people around me, but I am building confidence. But I do think that like the best way to lose, like making money and keeping money are different skills. And I think the best way and the most common way people make their first million and then lose their first million is by losing that humility to look at their blind spots, listen to people who say that they're messing up, and letting their lifestyle spin get out of control. So those are the things I'm just very cognizant of, because I'm super thankful. I'm super thankful of the situation that I'm in. My wife is very thankful. I feel like it's just a blessing. And so the worst thing I could do is be irresponsible and mess it all up. That said, I got a new truck. I got an F-150 that was loaded. I spent 70 grand on a truck. Like I'm doing a couple nice, like if I need a new golf club, I just do it. If people want to play golf with me, I just pay for it. Like I go to a restaurant and I don't look at the price anymore. Like those are little things that have made a positive impact in my family, but I'm just trying not to be a dick about it, I guess.
And if you're still struggling to keep your ego in check, here's a practical, simple remedy that won't change your life at all.
Kids are one of the things that's actually makes me a better person and makes me humble and makes me have to work hard. And like, even if we have, a drop in, drop off anytime daycare and we have a nanny, kids are still really difficult because we want to be around our kids. We do things with our kids all the time. And man, it'll just humble you because they're not rational thinkers. And it keeps me grounded for sure, because many times my wife and I look at each other and we're like, we're in the thick of it right now with these kids. This is not fun.
Yeah.
And we just kind of shake our heads and put our head down and do it.
But humility is a good one. Like, it does keep you humble because, like, man, these 4-year-olds do not give a shit what I'm doing at work. Like, absolutely do not give a crap. And also it makes, it's making me a better leader for sure as well. Like, understanding like how to navigate educating and bringing up these kids is like really helping me figure out how to communicate with like other human beings. There's still some really awesome stuff coming, including Nick's new net worth goals and how he plans to get there. But I've got to take a minute to talk about Hampton. As you know, Hampton makes this podcast, and the reason is that they want to reach people like you with these kinds of often too taboo topics. It's a community of high net worth founders like Nick. Nick is in there at various stages of their journey to talk about all of this stuff, both inline, but increasingly offline as well in real life. So if you want to network with people like Nick, you got to go and check it out. If you do and you check it out, you're not only making an amazing decision for yourself, but you're also helping listeners of this show and watchers of this show, because Hampton make it to get people to join Hampton. So if you're doing at least 3 million in ARR, go and check it out at joinhampton.com. But back to Nick. We've been talking a lot about how important humility is to him. Although the side of him you're likely used to seeing, well...
I'm a clear, concise, confident jerk on Twitter at times. But that's... like, nobody follows you on Twitter to have nuanced or half-assed opinions.
Right.
What I say on Twitter is things that I actually believe. Am I harsh about it? Do I offend people? Absolutely. Like, I've offended people in real life on Twitter, and it's actually been kind of a shame when people take what I say on Twitter very personally, and it offends them. Yeah. I'm going to stop talking trash on doctors and lawyers on Twitter. I made that decision because I have so many of them who are close to me, and they just have such a massive positive impact on businesses, lawyers, and on people with doctors. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I still wouldn't want my daughter to marry a doctor or a lawyer. So yeah, it's true, right? I say things that have a grain of truth, and that's why people get upset.
Those sometimes upsetting hot takes are likely the extent of his career as a media star.
I think I've definitely come to a crossroads recently where I have to kind of figure out if I want to be a media person or if I want to be a high-level entrepreneur. There are people who can do both very well. I'm not saying that's not possible. You look at Gary Vaynerchuk, Cody, Alex Hormozi, some of these Grant Cardone, some of these influencers, doesn't matter what you feel about them, they are building a media empire and a business empire in real time. I don't know if I have that kind of skill or the message that they have that can get to those levels. So I've kind of decided to double down on entrepreneurship and really be a high-level operator and run real companies that are going to get really big and be involved. Like, not that other people are not running big companies. I don't want that to come out wrong. But I'm going to be involved. I'm going to be in the trenches. I'm going to be working on these businesses because it just makes me feel alive when I'm making decisions that I get to see the outcome of a month later or 6 months later on a profit and loss statement. And also, it's super rewarding to grow businesses and hire people and give opportunity. And it's super mentally stimulating for me. And it's at the end of a hard day's work that I feel the best. But back when I was in my lawn, back when I was doing my lawn mowing, like I felt my best and most alive when I would get home from a 12-hour day.
Yeah.
So I could not be on vacation all the time and feel good.
Totally. No, I hear that and I buy that. But also, you're partly on this podcast because you're on a book tour. So the fuck are you talking about?
I always talk out of both sides of my mouth. But look, I think the sweaty startup message is really important. The wealthy people in the media are the tech billionaires and the unicorns. The wealthy people in our towns are the people who started sweaty startups and do common things uncommonly well. So my book, The Sweaty Startup, I will hold it up so people can see it. It's about flipping the script on opportunity and entrepreneurship so that some of these very smart entrepreneurs in their early days will look at real businesses in their towns to potentially start and think about opportunities in a different way. So I'm super passionate about that message. It's been my path as an entrepreneur. It's been the path, Harry, of so many people that you've talked to on your show. It's doing normal things.
So you don't want to build a media brand. You want to get this. Yeah, just square that one for me again.
So I think media is always something I'm going to do. Absolutely, I'm going to do it. But am I going to have a cameraman follow me around all day and
got it.
Double down on Instagram and go over to TikTok and try to get a million subs on my email newsletter? This book will never be a New York Times #1 bestseller. It's like those are the things that I'm kind of battling with inside. And I'll always do media. I love teaching. I think the message is super important. I also think I'm good at it, but building businesses is more profitable.
Yeah. Okay. And that's ultimately the decision-making, because it sounds like you're kind of like, there's a big part of you that wants to go do that. Like, tell me why do you want to do those parts, the media stuff? Is that ego, like to be direct about it?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's definitely ego. I care what people think. I want to be known. I care a lot less about what people think than some people do, but I definitely still do. And anybody who says they don't is a liar.
But that's interesting because you've got that unreasonable confidence your dad gave you. Why do you give a fuck what people think?
It's impossible. So look, the people on the internet with the handle like, Mom's Basement, World of Warcraft, 42069, like I'm never going to listen or care what those people think. But there's also a lot of respectable members of our communities where we hang out online and on these social media platforms and even in real life that will say very hurtful things and tear you down a little bit. And anybody would be lying if they say that stuff doesn't bother them a little bit.
So like, how big do you want to make this thing? Like what's the ambition? Where do you want to go? Like at what point are you going to like peace out and go, do you know what? I'm just going to cash out and I'm going to have a $50 million net worth liquid and I'm just going to like play golf and be with my kids? Or I don't know, you tell me, like what's the goal?
I want to build some really big companies. It's hard. I'm learning a lot. I want Bolt Storage to get really big. I think Ari Kostek could be a $250 million a year revenue business. I think somewhere.com could go to the public, stock exchange someday. I'm challenging myself to build those companies from here the right way. So it's fun, it's exciting, and I would like to make this kind of money for a couple more years so that I can actually feel like I can get some of these nicer things, that it's going to keep coming, and I, upgrade some things in life. But for the most part, what I do on a day-to-day basis won't change.
What do you think, what's that threshold, do you think, where you can just like relax a bit and go, all right, fuck it, I am buying the next car and the big house and all that shit?
$1 million a month of revenue or profit personally. That's my next checkpoint.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's it. Yeah.
Look, I paid
easy.
like
Standard,
Harry. I made a $900K quarterly tax payment 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, nah.
So the money comes, but the money goes.
Yeah, no, I'm not into that. I'm not into that. It's so weird, isn't it? You see the top line grow, and then your tax man says, "Oh yeah, but you got to pay tax on it," and suddenly it feels like just the world's caving in.
That's definitely an impact of it being an entrepreneur. It's the highs and lows from a financial standpoint. People talk about the highs and lows of business. One day your team's fired up, you do a ton of revenue, you make a big sale, things are clicking, shit's working, and as an entrepreneur, that's what makes you feel alive. As other days, like you're not making very many sales, somebody quits, big problems happen, your team messes something up. There's highs and lows of an entrepreneur from an operational standpoint, and a guy like me who has a lot tied up in his careers and his businesses, that will send you on a roller coaster as a man, and like how you feel about yourself and how you walk home and the face you put on in front of your family, which gets difficult. But then there's the financial side of it too, where 1 month you make a shitload of money and you're like, oh my God, I'm rocking, man. I can do whatever I want to do. And the next month you make an investment in one of your businesses, you don't do a distribution, and then you pay a $900K tax bill and you're like, I am broke.
Yeah, this is what happens. Like with me and my wife, I'm like, I'll literally on a Monday, I'll be like, we are rocking and roll. This is awesome. Yes, we should build that deck outside. Yes, we should like get carpets fit. That's the carpets is the talk of the day in our house. And then the end of the week comes and I see paychecks go out and I'm like, do you know what? Actually, I don't feel so hot.
This is why I think your podcast and your message is so important, because nobody talks about these things. As an entrepreneur, it's taboo to have a group chat with your buddies and send them a text, be like, we are freaking rocking. Here's how much money I made. Like, these are some of the things I want to do with it. This is how I'm thinking about it. and then the next week say, oh my God, I'm broke. I just paid almost 7 figures of taxes. This is crazy. Like,
do you have those people in your life that you can text that to?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Are these like Twitter buddies that have turned into real life buddies, or are these like people in
Dan
Georgia?
Hagberg, my business partner, he knows every single thing about my life.
Yeah.
He knows me better than my wife does. He's been around longer than my wife has.
Yeah.
My wife is ride or die with me, and she stands up for me in the highs, and she's with me in the lows. My accountant is a great friend of mine, Mitchell Baldridge. My personal attorney is an amazing guy. He's the executor who would help me sort shit out if I passed away, so that everything keeps going. So yeah, and I have even guys like Sam and some other close friends of mine that we talk about this stuff. And Hampton has been amazing. The private community has been a group of guys that talk about this stuff that nobody else talks about, which is really
that's
important.
Awesome. So you don't have to be curled up on a sidewalk in Boston. You can give someone a call. So that's
or
a
at
good
least
thing.
if you're curled up, you kind of have somebody you can reach out to.
Yeah, totally. And do you still have the same confidence you had when you were 12? You think you're going to get there? I
do, yeah. But look, like every time I get really high, I get knocked back down. Every time I get really low, I get brought back up. Mm-hmm. Business has a funny way of humbling you. It has a funny way of making you feel like you can conquer the world. Yeah. The last couple of weeks, I'm feeling more like I can conquer the world. Like things are going really well, but I know that something is going to happen that brings back that humility. This is a crazy game we play, and entrepreneurship is really, really hard. You get paid this money to solve the big problems, so it's up to me to solve them all.
So Nick's goal is to make $1 million a month. Tommy Mello wants to make that in a day. And in terms of spending, he is far on the other side of the spectrum. Check out his deal here.